Hey guys, Peter Birch, going live across LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. We're going to try something a bit different. Actually, we used to do these ages ago and kind of stopped for a while, but we're starting them back again. They're our lunchtime live sessions each week across YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Both myself and Aidan, who I'll bring on in a second, go live and talk about things that are happening in the THT Plus community, as well as the broader health tech industry across Australia and abroad. Let's bring on Aidan, our community manager, as well. Hey, Aidan, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Pete. How are you going?
I'm great, mate. You know, it's already lunchtime, and the day flew by pretty quick. So it's great to be back in the lives, and because we've done a couple of live interviews recently on LinkedIn where we've had members of the community come and talk, basically like doing a podcast episode, but you know, the raw edginess of doing it while you know, everyone's watching. So it's nice to, you know, back in the day we used to do these weekly lives to go through, you know, what's happening in the industry, share some of the things we've been doing. And when we stopped them, I thought, oh, we'll just stop them because, you know, we'll focus on something else. Turns out a few people really enjoyed it, and then they were a bit impromptu, but I think we can really make something of these ones. So if you are watching, then let us know. You can comment in LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook, and we can see those comments. And yeah, we can talk about, you know, those any topic really, if there's anything that you wanted us to explore. But we've got a couple of things on the agenda to look at today. But yeah, should we? Usually, what we used to do is go through the lives. The newsletter. So if you've not subscribed to the Talking Health Tech newsletter, just go to talkinghealthtech.com/newsletter, and then you're able to subscribe. Now, let me share my screen and take you through what it includes. And look, this week, so I'll go through the newsletter, and then after this, we'll get I'll get Aidan to talk about what's happening in the community. Let me just share my little app, like stop sharing my Apple thing. There you go. Cool. So we've got hey, Michelle's watching. That's good. At least somebody's watching.
Funnily enough, Pete, she was the first member to join off the back of one of these live streams way back in February. Do you remember that?
There you go. I remember those days. Yeah, it was yeah. So if you do want to join THT Plus, just go to, what is it? THT.plus is the website. So there you go. Look, see, I can do that with my live stream tools. There you go. You can put things up there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Technology, hey? So the newsletter, if you've not subscribed to it, talkinghealthtech.com/newsletter. What do we got? The summit. We're all about the summit these days. Spring Summit happening on the 16th of September. Full day virtual event. If you could only go to one of these sessions, Aidan, only one, which of the one session would you go to?
You know, I'm completely biased in this, but I'd have to go to the omics session where we have Dr. Michael Sugru, Dr. Valerio Bertoni, and Dr. Catherine Hurrell talking to us about genomics and connectomics and the future of precision medicine in combining gene therapy with different aspects of the body to, you know, incorporate treatments. So that's going to be quite an interesting one. Yeah.
No, I think that's going to be a great one too. And we're doing that as the second session of the day. We've got a broad range of topics again for this summit too, with moderators who are either members of the community or have been on the podcast previously. So yeah, we've got everything from a topic around patient advocacy, because there's not enough about, you know, the patient voice in healthcare, but particularly with technology as well. So some interesting speakers covering different areas of that topic. Like you said, the omics session. And there's the recent episode of the podcast, which you can check out on our website too at where is it? The talkinghealthtech.com/podcast, or you can just go here and you can listen to that episode with Valerio Vertone. It's still just there. Definitely check out that episode if you're wanting to learn a bit more about what that session's going to be like. Allocating scarce resources, all about acquiring technology within a hospital, no, particularly like a health system setting. So again, Angela is just featured on the show. We talk about that and many other topics too in that podcast episode, but we'll be delving into that in detail. And there's a good mix of, health economics and vendor and clinician, all different views coming from in that session. The allied health crowd will be those allied health providers that are creating solutions. And I think that session will really appeal to anyone that's attending, but particularly there's always passionate healthcare providers that are in the allied health space that see a problem and then solve it utilizing technology. So we'll get to explore that concept a little bit further, and maybe give inspiration for others that want to do the same too. It's going to be a session about user-centered design. And, this is one of those topics that, we throw around terms like co-design a lot. What does that actually mean? And the importance of keeping a clinician, the end user in mind when looking at creating these solutions. So Adam's, moderating that session, and Katja, who's also a member, and Malcolm are all participating in that. And Stefan, there's an episode of the podcast that you'll hear in the coming weeks with Stefan Herrera from the Digital Health CRC. That episode of the podcast is going to be more focused on artificial intelligence, which is Stefan's, he's got particularly passionate about. However, he's got some great perspectives to add when it comes to user-centered design as well. We're going to be doing a session on mental health and the role of technology in that space, which is, certainly apt and front of mind at the moment.
And just so important. It's like thoughts and prayers to everyone in the mental health services at the moment. They're already doing it tough with scarce resources before COVID hit. And then with all this, trying to support everyone else who are going through such horrendous times at the moment. It's a very pertinent issue that needs to be discussed.
Yeah. And this panel in particular, we've got a good mix of, Brittany from Black Dog, but also Anton. And there's an episode of the podcast coming up soon with Anton, which Anton's focus is on loneliness. And then Corey, who I just noticed isn't in here, which we'll add on. She's been on the podcast ages ago, and her focus is phobias. So it's a little bit different. And she's a psychologist, and they've got a clinic that is, the Sydney Phobia Clinic, focused on phobias and utilizing virtual reality and other technology to help with, people who are facing phobias. So again, and then, bringing it together with Dion from Sydney LHD. And
yes, correct.
Yeah. So there's a good cross section of people there, which is what we like to do at the summits. By all means, if you're watching this live and you're liking the sound of one particular session and wanted to highlight that one, then drop a message. We're going to doing dental. Not done enough dental and talking health tech. I feel like we want to cover all different areas, not just health care necessarily. And I love how all these different things connect together: aged care, dental, disability, GP allied. There's so many related themes, but I also want to be able to focus on more of the specific needs in dental. And it's interesting too, you see a couple of health providers who are getting more involved in dental these days, like on the technology side. There's certainly crossover and similarities, but also some pretty stark differences as well. And my gut feel is this session is going to be particularly more focused on the consumer side of things in dental, and some of those technologies that are helping to connect dental clinical people with the end patient. Lots of cool tools around. Another important topic: rural health. So it's nice, we're covering mental health, rural health, patient not patient centricity, but patient voice and patient advocacy. So with the rural health session, we got Ben McGid, who's been on the podcast before, moderating a session featuring, again, vendors, as well as we've got Ian as well from a PHN. I've forgotten which PHN, a rural PHN.
Northern Health.
Northern. So we've got a great cross-section of representation there. social enterprise, loving the sound of this session. It's, how technologies can enable more doing good. And so they might not be super focused on technology in this particular session, but it's still a remarkably important topic for us to be thinking about in that broader space. And Matu, again, been on the podcast a while ago. It's great to have him back. He's been doing some interesting things since then, but this session will be definitely focused on social enterprise in particular. Then we head into the main events for the session for the whole afternoon. A session about shadow IT. I love this one. Featuring Steve from CELO, and we've got John and Josh, or Dr. John Lambert, Dr. Josh Case. Josh is finally on the panel. He's not moderating a session. I'll be moderating this one, but he's a panelist this time. But this will be all about, the concept of shadow IT. We talked about this on the show recently, is where basically end users, clinicians, bring in technology under the radar of the policies or the CTO within that organization. So in a hospital setting, with more and more consumer-friendly applications becoming secure alternatives and like easier to use, and expectations of clinicians, becoming greater in terms of technology, there's this emerging problem, which is that CTOs need to take on, which is, how do you deal with people bringing in tools to manage their work, which aren't like approved, technologies under that policy of the hospital. So when you think about it in an office setting, we come across this often where people might have their own task management system or to-do list, or they have their own kind of tool to create a graphic. And it's like, technically in a very large organization, you're not supposed to do that. So what happens with that data and all? So there's some really interesting questions that arise there, but it's not something that's going to go away. It's only going to become greater. So that's why we're doing a session focused on it. We're then doing a session about collaboration in the industry. That's like from day one. That's what we've been talking about, talking health tech. And so it's great to be able to do a session on it and talk about some real world examples of, 3 people in particular talking about the importance of collaboration within the industry. And then we're missing two images there, but we've got Beck Ziffer, Sue Sinclair, and David Ryan, individuals from Ramsay Hospital, but also in, providing consulting around project roles in acquiring technology in a hospital setting. And we're focusing on the whole concept of, co-design is critical in the use of technology in a hospital setting, and working with a vendor as much more than a vendor, like a partner in that process. And so there's no vendors in that conversation. It's all, I guess, the hospital side of things talking about their experiences with it. So yeah, big day. Looking forward to it.
Oh, it's going to be massive, hey?
Yeah. So if you do want to get a ticket for the summit, there's only 14 days. Is that all that's got left? We've only got 2 weeks. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay. Yeah. You can get discounted tickets. Now you notice, we're going to turn this off at the end of today. So there's I can get a free ticket because I'm a THT Plus member. But if you clicked on that button, you'll see here that the early bird tickets are still available. It says to the 31st of August. So you can get a little bit of a discounted ticket there, but you got to buy one today. Or you just become a member, then you get access to the community forum, and then you can attend all that stuff for free. But do that today, because this one's going to disappear at the end of today, so you won't be able to access that anymore if you are interested in coming along. Speaking of the community forum, Aidan, so Aidan, if people don't know Aidan, he's our community manager with a Talking Health Tech. People know you now. You've been around long enough. So, we've got a community of 150 something members now. It's active, engaged, and a good cross-section of people that cover clinical and decision-making and vendors, early-stage startups, well-established organizations. What's been happening in the community, man? What are some cool things to talk about?
Well, there's been quite a few recently. We had THT Plus members Neutromics announce last week their $7 million raise, which is very exciting.
Yeah,
so
a big one.
Congratulations to Hitesh and the team.
Yeah. And that was from an existing, that was in the AFR, and that was from an existing shareholder. That was their third go at investing into Neutromics, I think. Yeah. So that's good. That's great. It's great to see that initial investors continuing to invest in that and scaling with organizations. This concept of wearable sensors is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be so important in the future with more at-home based care, which then moves us on to our think tank discussion that we've been talking about this week, and the whole idea of, will at-home care blur the lines of privacy? And it's a really important question to ask, especially when you have companies like Amazon using their Alexa to try and track sleep data, more treatment to be occurring at home in the future. Like, how do we make sure that the most sacred place of a person's life, their own home, is as private as possible, whilst also allowing us to provide healthcare from home? It's a very interesting question, and we've got a lot of members weighing in on it at the moment.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's so easy to share information, and you can see that benefit of like, hey, if I provide this data, then maybe it'll give me some interesting insights. But yeah, there's also that big element of trust and confidence in, these solutions, and that whole black box of where that information actually goes. And, there's a lot of consumers that don't trust that system and that concept. So how are we going to bridge that gap? That's interesting. So we'll keep talking about that.
Yeah, exactly. And it all comes around after a town in England has 100 participant study starting up, where they're tracking literally everything. They've got little sensors on their kettles. They're for in-home social care. And thinking about that in the future is like, what are we willing to, implement into our own homes to track stuff to help us make healthy decisions? It's a bit of an interesting one.
Yeah, like why do they need to measure how many times you use the kettle? Like that, it comes to that point of like measuring data for data's sake versus like getting insights, right? So where's that line, I wonder? But yeah, there's that concept of life loggers, right? Like life loggers and that's been around for ages, but people having apps to track how long they spent walking downstairs for a day or something, or I don't know, like it's and to get some kind of insights out of it. And I guess in healthcare, it's working out. This is the thing, like the more data we capture, the more noise there is, and especially if it's done in an unstructured and not useful way, it just creates more confusion. Sometimes the simpler the better. That'd be interesting.
Exactly. And then two other major things that came out this week. Australia scored a bronze at the International Health System Games.
Cool.
I'm just getting it up myself to remember what happened. There was a Commonwealth Fund that ranked all these health systems around the world, including Norway, Netherlands, which were first and second, and then Australia, UK, Germany, New Zealand, Sweden, France, Switzerland, Canada, and then finally in last place, the US. And it found some really interesting results. We were awarded gold in equity and healthcare outcomes, silver in administrative efficiency. But then we had poor outcomes in access to care and care processes, which kind of comes back to our whole talk at the summit around using scarce resources. How do we implement technology to get to patients who can't access it themselves? How do we stretch out the resources we already have to, help as many people as we can at the moment? So it's kind of all like interlooped at the moment, which is really interesting stuff.
No, really interesting. So I'm going to jump into some of these conversations that have come up in the last couple of days. And for those community members who, haven't been in for a while and just want a quick way to catch up with what's going on, Aidan does a great bit of a summary or a TLDR each week, one on a Monday and one on a Friday, of what's been happening and what to look forward to. So jump into the community digest section at the top here to kind of get a bit of a high-level summary of it. Bit of a hot tip for anyone watching this who's not yet a community member. If you do go to the Talking HealthTech website, talkinghealthtech.com, and then click on community, even if you don't have a login, you can now access some parts of the community forum and set yourself up for free to access the group sections here to get a bit of a taste on some of these conversations. So it'd be great to see some people here, that might catch this live session to set themselves up. We're making a bit more of a larger announcement about that in the coming weeks, but I guess call this a bit of a spoiler alert for you lucky people who made the effort to view this live or watch the recording back, 20 minutes in or whatever we are, to find that out. So do make sure you drop us a note if you do come in to the community and join those sections there. But you should just come in as a THT Plus member and get the full access. So that would be great to have you in as well. We did our member meetup yesterday as well, Aidan. So we'll have to put a bit of a summary for members in the community there. But we had a good turnout. There.
Yeah. I think we had about 15 rock up, so it was awesome.
Yeah. And so we do those as a virtual lunchtime catch up once a month, and really, people pop in and pop out. We decide on the word of the month on the podcast. You'll have to join the community to work out what that's about. But and we also, it was a good opportunity actually to explore one of our new members who've joined. And they took us through their Showcase Your Stuff post that they did, the Family Care Hub. Did you get to hear some of that from Larry in the session yesterday, Aidan?
Yeah, it was a really interesting discussion around how him and his family had a problem with trying to track all the information that they wanted to present to their pediatrician about their daughter every time. And they were seeing a pediatrician monthly, but just couldn't remember, anything past what happened yesterday. So they stepped in, created an app based off an Excel spreadsheet that one of his friends created for this exact purpose, and has now launched it. I believe it might be in beta testing, but if you're interested in learning more, reach out to Larry and he'll hook you guys up.
You can register. Because I went through the process myself, and I think I just got my email today to give me access, my beta test access. So just go to the Family Care Hub website there, .com.au, and you can I think you can set yourself up for a beta test for free until the end of the year. So check that out. Loads more happening in the community, and it'd be good to see any new members who've joined. We have new members who join every day, and some of those are writing up introductions in the discussion section here. So if anyone new has joined in the last couple of days, make sure you introduce yourself so we can say hi. Anything else that we should cover off, Aidan, before we go and consume our Lunchables?
Just a quick one that the Australian government has provided $79 million funding for digital health tech development. So that came out last week I believe it's a partnership between And Health and I can't exactly remember the other.
There's a few. There's a couple of them, and they're done in different tranches. If we're talking about the same thing, there's a couple in different tranches. It's great to see broadly then the support to the industry across multiple platforms, and Health in particular are great at that in terms of providing the support around commercialization for organizations. And they've got different ways to do that too. Like they've got their free office hour things that anyone can go to, and also more structured programs which people can apply for. So it's great to see there's that support and the money coming into the industry to try and kickstart some of those. Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, there's loads going on. We could talk about this forever. There's also like a new taxpayer-funded incubator that's set up in New South Wales. WA has put funding towards healthcare research. Man, it just keeps going. It's awesome. It's an awesome time to be in the health tech space in Australia.
Yeah. And so join up, just go to, if you are interested in checking out the community, just go to, I think if you just go to THT.plus and you can join up and become a solo member and get full access to the community. We do a neat little digest of what's going on. It's like, curating content about all the different news and other bits and pieces, and then having the conversations off the back. There's really good engagement in the community. We've got some great members across clinical and vendor, and also in the hospital space and startups. And so everyone's welcome to come on board. share what you're doing, get feedback on your solutions, or talk about some of the hot topics like in the think tank section too. So yeah, man, I think it's been a good live session, a good way to kick back off. And I think what we'll do when we start doing these, so we'll start doing these on a weekly basis now, we might drag in a member of the community to talk a little bit more about what they do and share some of the live love, right? So we'll have to find someone in the community to come on and do one of these lives with us next week.
Yeah, we enjoy talking about this stuff so much. We thought we'd bring someone else along so you guys don't have to hear us speak all the time.
yeah, it's a good opportunity. And there's going to be more live podcast style interviews that we'll do too on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. So keep an eye out for that. Subscribe to the podcast and just check out the website, talkinghealthtech.com. Loads of good stuff there. And if you've got any questions, reach out. I think we're done, man.
Yeah. Well, for now, we'll catch you next week.
Catch you next week, guys.